Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of Science and the Soul. I am DearJames, your human design expert, and I'm always joined by the fabulous co-host, Dear James, your intuitive guide. And in the Science of the Soul, Science and the Soul, we bridge the gap between the practical and the spirituality. And I'm so excited for today's session. Dear James, how are you doing today?
Hello, the Lady Jaclyn. How are you? I'm good. I'm well. I'm always happy to be here with you, and I enjoy these. I enjoy these Wednesdays and Thursdays and us coming together and just listening and sharing and collaborating with the universe and the guests and everything. It's amazing.
Absolutely. So today we're going to dive straight in. And guys, if you're joining us live, please drop us a hello in the comments. Let us know where you're joining in from. If you're watching this on replay, if you're listening to us on a podcast, we have a podcast, guys, if you didn't know that already. Drop us a comment as well. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to know where you're tuning in from. And that is the way that we actually see who is joining in, and we love to see you guys because it's so global, and this is what it's all about. It's kind of connecting each other, connecting the dots, and making the world I want to say smaller place.
Yes, a
Does that
beautiful,
make sense?
a more intimate place, right? It is.
There
It's
we
more,
go. Better word.
yeah, the intimacy of bringing everybody together and just sharing, and the beauty of the expansion of it. And when I say like-mindedness, Jaclyn, it's that piece of like-mindedness, meaning consciousness. Choosing to have a higher consciousness and a higher awareness, and that we choose it, and that way, we walk the talk.
Listen, we had a giggle yesterday after our show yesterday. I told James, I was like, listen, I laugh at the universe because the universe literally uses us as vessels. But some of the stuff that I tell you guys, like, I need to hear it as much as maybe you do. So I have a giggle because I literally go watch our replays and I go, okay, I heard the message like loud and clear, and I can't believe that it actually had to come from my own mouth. So it is fantastic as always to join you guys. And as much as you're learning, we're learning too.
Absolutely right. This is true. I mean, we walk the talk. We're in the moment, and we did. We giggled about that afterwards because we were literally like, it's coming through, it's coming out of our mouths, and we're like, yep, I needed that, thank you. And it's in reciprocity. We always say that, and it's an interesting thing how the unseen is guiding us all, and it's constant and it's beautiful, and we just have to allow, and then sit back and and receive what they're offering.
Absolutely. So let's dive into today's show. And I think it branches off and it stems from kind of the conversation we started yesterday, where we're talking about the collective energy at the moment and that crisis, and I want to say the turmoil that's potentially, within us and then also around us in the collective at the moment, and how to transcend that and how to actually embody and embrace that frequency of peace. So we kind of came up with the topic of balancing that feminine and masculine energy, because both feminine and masculine have that shadow and good aspect to it. So I think a lot of times when people talk about masculine, they think of masculine as being the shadow. It's not the case. So both the feminine and the masculine both have like good and then the shadow elements attached to it. And diving into that theme, spinning off of what we spoke about yesterday, I think is so important, because it is really finding the balance between both so that you can embody that inner peace, because it starts internal, right? Your external world starts internal. So James, do you want to kick things off today?
Absolutely. And so as we look at this, because this is a big topic, because we're in this huge moment of transition, huge, epic. And so let's start at the beginning. And in a sense, in the beginning, and you've heard us talk about this in the shows before and so forth, but within the great year and the procession. So I want to come at it from a standpoint of, Master Jesus says, you ask where you're going without knowing where you've been. And so there's this beauty about, we need to stop for a moment and just reset the room, so to speak, in terms of how are we where we are, so that we know where we're going. And the truth of this is, for the last 2,500 plus years, because each astrological sign in the precession of the great year lasts about 2,500-ish years. And so literally, Master Jesus was at the transitional point. His presence, his arrival and his presence on earth was right at the end of Aries, the lamb, the ram, as it transitioned into the Piscean era that we are in now, Pisces. So he was known both as the lamb, the ram, and the fisher of men and women, the fisher, Piscean. So literally realize that for 2,000 plus years, we have been in all of our known history really has been Piscean patriarchal rule. Pre that, so this is the amazing thing too then, Jaclyn, and we can see this. So pre that, we had the matriarchal, we had the divine feminine, the feminine being revered. It was absolutely revered and cherished, and the masculine really embodied the feminine because they regarded it with such what's the word I want? You know what I'm saying, Jaclyn? With this kind of just reverence. That's the word I wanted. Reverence. This reverence and awe and respect. And so that's where we've been. So in our current, anybody living today, that's our history. Our history is that we've been in this Piscean era. And what we're seeing literally playing out on the streets of the world, in governments, in our societies and everything, is this epic transition point, like the time of Master Jesus. This epic transition from patriarchal Piscean rule to matriarchal Aquarian rule. And the difference being that the matriarchal is this blend. Hello everyone, and we are back live. There's the universe punking us again. They're like, oh, major transition, let's do it. So again, we're at this epic transition. It's showing up on the streets. And, the Lady Jaclyn and I really wanted to speak to the way to thrive in this, the way to literally lead in this moment is by harmonizing and blending. To realize the opportunity that we have, which is to harmonize, not demonize. Harmonize the energies, harmonize the masculine and the feminine. Do not demonize. Do not fall into the trap to the shadow elements, as Jaclyn just spoke about, and demonize. Because we have to come to the table. We don't have to do anything, but the opportunity is that we come to the table and we recognize, we see the divine masculine, we see the divine feminine, we see each other, and we say, it's okay, we know it's changing. Because we can see on the world stage, right, Jaclyn, that what's happening, where where this masculine, this patriarchal masculine rule that has been our governments and our societies for 2,400, 500 years, doesn't want to relinquish control, power, superiority. They don't, and yet they know. They absolutely know that it's gone. It's gone, because what happens? We move forward. So they're already seeing the youngest generations coming up and going, yeah, we're not having this, whatever this was, we're not wired that way. We don't see it or understand it that way. We see the beauty of, all the colors of the rainbow. We see harmony and love and kindness and goodness, and that's how we're wired. And the old guard's going, oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we've been, and that's kind of where we are, because the old doesn't want to let go, and the new is coming regardless.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because I can definitely see it in the shift and the changes that I notice within business, like within the way that people are deciding to do business. And it's starting with, I think the biggest changes, and like you said, it's always going to be with the new that's coming in, it depends how deep those roots are. And if you're looking at years and years of like deep rooted structures that are no longer actually fitting to where we're going, it's going to take time. So there is a progress or a process that needs to unfold in to really step into this progression of actually moving into the newness that we're always talking about, that newness that actually fits with us, whatever that newness looks like. I think sometimes we try and articulate it, but we're also finding new and better words to kind of express actually where we're stepping into. And if you look at now in your current situation in life, and you look at, I know for me personally, I've always had this beautiful experience in dance and play with the masculine and this feminine aspects of me, because I mean I have a lot of fire, which is a lot of masculine, a lot of control, a lot of wanting to force the conditionings that I've been working through, and then kind of really embodying what it actually truly means to embrace the feminine and what it means to actually be and to receive and be in that state of reciprocity, and knowing and understanding with human design quite literally changing the way that I understand my strategy based on my energy, which is literally, it says waiting for an invitation. I mean, if that is if that is so opposite to the masculine energy, then I don't know what is, right? And so it's been this beautiful journey of unpacking and understanding the gift of both sides, but actually looking at it in a practical sense and kind of going, I'm seeing it now, and I'm noticing it in business where people, like just the nature of, for example, work, shifting from that hustle mentality of doing and forcing and getting it, go get it, you got to go get it, you got to put in the work, into actually, hold on, let's reframe the idea of what work actually looks like and what effort
Yes.
actually is.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing I see, that because that is the thing that I know and understand that I can actually control. I can't really control, the governmental structures, what's going to happen at the top end. That automatically, I just kind of live in faith and knowing that it'll all work itself out. But for me, the idea is, okay, how does it influence me on a day-to-day basis? This balance, this play, this dance between both, in stepping into like being part of the progression into, stepping into where we're actually going. And that's the idea of shifting from hustle, from do, from control, from worry and scarcity and limitation, into actually, hold on, I can put this necessary systems in place, and reframing the idea of work. Make sense?
Yes, and it's beautiful that you're bringing up the piece, this aspect of work, because again, companies, businesses, governments. So the interesting piece is, and from COVID forward, and so you can see these shifts, all of these things that are shifting us, that's shaking the tree. That's literally shaking us loose and shaking us from these institutions, these ways of being that were, and the individual, because again, the governments change, the world change, the businesses change, the industries change, because the people finally say, no more, not having it, don't like it this way. Now, with that, coupled with that, Jaclyn, is of course, humans by nature don't like change. They like this kind of consistency, and we know what we're doing, and and then all of a sudden we get scared and challenged and a little terrified. And then of course the least among us, the energy, fear, raises its head. And yet there's something in this moment intrinsically being awakened within all of us, and we spoke about this yesterday, about it's like they're shaking the tree. The universe, the unseen, is shaking the tree and awakening our authentic selves, our true nature, saying, that's nice, that's wonderful, this was the program, everything's purposeful, but now we're switching. And we're switching into this Aquarian authenticity. So businesses, governments, industry, peoples are shifting, changing. And just like we spoke yesterday, you either allow, You either allow or you're cleaving to something that's going away. And you're going to have the experience of cleaving and being desperate and fear filled and so forth. Or you're being proactive, you're allowing, you're surrendering, you're coming into a state of peace with, okay, let's see where life is taking us, because it's history demonstrates the arc moves or bends forward. It doesn't, it bends forward. It doesn't go back.
I think it's also that idea of, because this is what I had to grapple with, is that you're stepping 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but you're still going forward.
Yes, because...
So it's that idea.
No, go ahead. And
So
because I want to bring, yeah.
It's literally the idea of we're by nature, we're designed to transform and progress. Whatever that
Yes.
looks like and how long that takes is dependent on, you know, the circumstances, how we embrace it, etc., etc., a whole lot of things. But ultimately, there's always going to, I mean, we're not going to, we're not going to get extinct. You know, this idea of like doomsday, or the idea of, oh, everything is just going to, you know, turn to nothing. It's that again is the shadow version of the truth, and the truth is that we're forever moving, we're ever shifting, we're ever growing.
And that's the thing, you know, when you speak about like end times, revelations, all this stuff, it really, ultimately, what that really means is the end of an era, the end of a way. So what was written 2,000 plus years ago, Book of Revelations, is speaking, it sounds like Armageddon, doom and gloom, everything's over and done. What if what it was really speaking to was this 2,000 plus year era was over? It's the end of a time. It's the end of a way. And so that's one aspect. And then the other thing, which I wanted to tag on because it brought up with work. So again, we see those that are in power, patriarchal rule, using the US as an example. So we're seeing reproductive rights legislation being passed that's trying to limit the women's right to choose for their body. That's happening. We're seeing voting things, so suppression and jimmying the system in terms of your ability to vote. Another piece. Minorities being ostracized, and from critical race to, you know, LGBTQ issues and so forth. You keep seeing, so this is when you were saying, you know, like we take a step forward, 2 steps back. It's like the arc is going forward. Time marches forward. It goes forward. And yet those that are cleaving are trying to recapture something from the 1950s prior. They're trying to go back to a day and a moment and an era where patriarchal empowerment was totalitarian, all-encompassing. And yet everyone's like, yeah, not having it. It's not happening because, again, even the youth are saying, no, they're not wired that way. They are literally like, what are you people talking about? And why would you even have this discussion? Because they know that it's about the harmony and the balance, about the shadow and the light being harmonized, pure, one. They know it. And you know, the old guard, as we would say, and you know, from an English perspective and a US perspective, the old guard doesn't want to cede control and power. And we can see how this is going to play out, right, Jaclyn, in individual lives, in businesses, in our world affairs, and yet it's going to, because there's a higher hand. There's the way. We speak all the time, right? The way.
Yep.
The plan. The way.
The plan versus our plan. Absolutely. Okay, so let's go and keep it a bit more practical, because that's what we're doing here. And we kind of say, okay, so how do you, I want to say, embody compassion, or how do you step into compassion when everything feels like it is just falling apart? You know, that idea, like, I think when you're part of the human experience, we spoke about this yesterday as well. It's like, even though you're feeling moments of satisfaction and fulfillment, and you're in alignment, and you're feeling like, oh great, this feels good, you're going to have moments and episodes of overwhelm or fear, or the monkey mind coming up to try to be the spokesperson for your life. And that's part of the human experience, right? Is having the polarity. So what we started with the conversation yesterday was just leaning into compassion and cultivating that inner peace. But maybe the question that a lot of people are asking at the moment is actually how, because I know I've caught myself a few times where I'm like, okay, how am I supposed to be peaceful if I feel like everything around me is just crazy and it's in turmoil and it's one thing after the next? And it was so interesting because I actually listened to an interview with Sadhguru, and he spoke about it, and he's like, when you're internally feeling iffy, like if you're not at peace with internally, if you're not feeling good internally, no matter the situation externally, you're always going to have your opinion, your perspective is always going to be from a place or a frequency that reflects your internal environment, right? So you might meet the same person that has the same reaction to you every single day, but because you're not feeling good on the inside, you probably have a negative perception of what actually is happening, or you might feel irritated with the person, or you might look at a situation in a completely different perspective, that because of the way your internal environment is actually being represented or is actually coming out. So what is some of the things that you do to reach into or lean into compassion and to cultivate that inner peace when everything around you, your environment, your circumstances, what's happening in the world seemingly is chaotic?
The thing that comes in this is I'm going to incorporate Brigitte's comment, because it was literally as you were speaking about all of that, Jaclyn. The first thing is, am I in a moment, am I operating in a moment of fear? Fear that I'm going to lose something, fear that I'm not going to be something, fear that I'm going to not have something, fear of the unknown. And they showed me in this moment, in the tarot, the Hanged Man card. And the Hanged Man card is both the Fool and the Hanged Man card, because in essence, the Hanged Man card speaks to seeing things from a new perspective. So, and Brigitte had said, I had this beautiful vision of everyone marching forward and a river flowing, washing all that we are letting go. So you can see from the Hanged Man card, this washing, this cleansing, this releasing the past. The Fool is about the new journey, right? The Fool is the 0 card in the tarot. And so there's this beauty that, again, whether it's a business, a corporation, a government, an individual, society as a whole, what's required in these moments that are triggering fear, because it's changing. Everybody knows it's changing. Everybody can feel it. There are those that want to run to it, and there are those that are cleaving to the past. So it's triggering fear. And so the first thing you want to do, practical step, personal issue. Why is this triggering me from a place of fear? What's the fear? Identify the fear. Once you've identified the fear, Hanged Man card, look inside. Look for a new perspective. What might be on offer that I do not see? Who might I become if I let go of, or if I come into peace with? It's okay that it's going to go this way. And then be the Fool card, be the hero. If this is the hero's journey, our life is the hero's journey. The human experience is represented by the Fool card, which is the hero's journey. Take each step. Take a leap of faith. Take just the next step. Sometimes it's going to be a big leap, right? But other times it won't be. But first and foremost, practical, literal, what is the fear within you that's being triggered? And then how can I come to terms with it, come to peace with it, see it from a new perspective, See it from a place of opportunity,
Mm,
not lack.
mm. That is beautiful. You know what's interesting is that that is 110% something that I do. But before that, sometimes when I get caught up in all of the feels, I actually take Abraham Hicks's advice. The teachings of Abraham, and teachings of Abraham talks about the fact of swimming upstream, and all you actually got to do is just basically stop paddling, and it's kind of like you got to hold a specific vibration or a thought for at least 17 seconds, and then you build on 17 seconds and you build on 17 seconds, right? But sometimes when you're so caught up in swimming upstream, you can't get there from here, right? Or you can't get there from there, right? That's what they talk about. So all you literally got to do is go take a nap. So
Right?
sometimes, sometimes when I'm really caught up in feeling all of the feels, having the moment of acknowledging, okay, there is fear, this isn't mine to keep, what is the wisdom in this, but I can still feel the vibration. And instead of trying to force or trying to, from a masculine aspect or standpoint, trying to control or put systems into place to move through, the best thing sometimes to do is just to actually surrender, let go, and go sleep, so that you can kind of shut off the mind from consistently creating that vibration, which is keeping you in that loop, right? That loop that we spoke about in yesterday's show. So for me, it has been, and also because it's so beneficial for me being a projector, like taking naps and resting is like vital. It's part of the success strategy. But sometimes you just got to switch off. You just got to take a nap. You got to disconnect to reconnect, right?
1,000%. 1,000%, because there again, that shifts, that's giving you that beat where you're able to step back, new perspective, hangman card, let me see. And sometimes, as you just said, Jaclyn, simply just resting or taking a little nap or something, or just perhaps it's at the end of the day or something, and you say, you know what, okay, because the next moment, the next morning, will have a reset. You may still be acknowledging the challenges and the fears and so forth, yet you'll be able to do it from a renewed energetic state because you've taken a nap. I mean, it's one of these really great resets. I personally, since I was a little kid, and I love that you use that analogy, because I mean, literally since like preschool, kindergarten, they used to say to my mom, well, he's really wonderful, except, when we go for nap time, he's really hard to wake up. Like, he doesn't wake up. Now, I was like this. I don't know what this whole new school thing is and learning and whatever. What I love is the nap. And so I would fake being woken up because I wanted to nap longer until my mom looked at me and went, James. And I go, okay, 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 okay. But it's built
Yeah.
in. It's built in for me that
Mhm.
the nap is a reset. The nap is or just the rest. It's a reset.
Mm.
So take that moment, take that beat, so as to give yourself and others, because remember, we don't live in a vacuum. Our energy is affecting other people's energy because as we interact. And so the gift we give ourselves and others is to take that moment, whether it's a second, whether it's 5 minutes of meditation, whether it's a nap, something in this is going to allow you to recalibrate and say, okay, I'm back to center. And back to center is 50-50 masculine, feminine, divine. And, it's that divine trinity. It's the divine masculine, divine feminine, divine spirit, all as
Mm.
one, all acting and operating as one. And from that place, we can see and see
Mm.
overview, right? It's not like what's in front of us see but we can see. We have a new perspective. Hangman card, new perspective. And then we're willing. There's that beauty of the hero's journey, the Fool card. We're willing, okay, let me take the next step, or let me take the leap, or let me just come down off of my what's my soapbox. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
let me, because it's so fascinating, Jaclyn, isn't it, that when we look at all of these things, businesses, corporations, government, all of these things were put into place. There were so many laws or unions or this, that, and the others to do what? Help protect people, because the dominating force was driving something. And we were talking in this show about not letting the pendulum swing so far to where we're repeating mistakes from the past. The opportunity is just be in a state of harmony, balance, or come back to it when we're triggered. Keep coming back to a state of balance and harmony and peace, oneness, peace, meaning we're all of these aspects to where we're appreciating them or not, we're harmonizing, as I said, not demonizing. If we're demonizing, we're in the wrong lane and we're going to have that experience. But if we're in the harmonizing, there we go.
And that's that feminine aspect that we're speaking about, right? So like taking a nap, tuning in, being the centering the yourself, that's all the feminine. But you also need to implement the masculine in order to fully embody the feminine, because you've got to, you can't just take naps in your entire day. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it would make no sense, right? So it's kind of going, okay, so what action can I put in place that allows me the balance of then inaction, but inaction not being wrong? Inaction meaning taking action for me to really be with myself or regulate my energy, which is potentially going to require me to reset by taking a nap. So this is why it's the beautiful dance between both the masculine and the feminine. And in your own life, it's kind of putting, like, what can you put in place today that incorporates that masculine energy? So like the structure, strategies, what strategies can you look at? What insights are there that you can reframe or refocus the way you're putting in effort, right? That's going to allow you to incorporate a balance of both.
Yes, and we've talked about this, right, Jaclyn? We have talked about how you absolutely we all want and need a healthy mind, a healthy ego, a healthy personality. The masculine, the creative force, the masculine force, so as to be in harmony and unity with the knowing, the intuiting, that divine feminine. And that way, as you're being guided, this healthy personality, this healthy ego is in unity. It's like the ego is in service to the soul. That means we've got a really powerful embodiment. We've got a really powerful force, because it's not running roughshod. It knows when to stand up. It knows when to lay a boundary in a peaceful, proactive way. And yet it also knows how to be guided, how to be this force that is led. And so this is that beautiful dance that Jaclyn is talking about, is how do you find how do you stay in that pocket, in that sweet spot? And the way is, we've got to lay down the demonizing and the fears of change and the what won't I have and who won't I be and blah, 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 blah. This is all not healthy ego. This is the shadow side of the patriarchal side. Because then the beauty of the divine masculine, of the patriarchal, is this sense of leadership and goodness and strength and courage. We just need more of it. And there's Brigitte's comment, right? That washing away of the cleansing, the washing away of the shadow. Not the divine masculine, not the patriarchal, we don't eradicate it. We don't want it to go away. We just need it to be harmonized, purified. And this is true of the feminine.
And don't you think it's interesting how I want to say it's in relationships and work that these two aspects, or those two aspects really act like a mirror for us, to to actually notice when we're out of alignment, I want to say, with the balance of both. When you're looking at, dealing with a partner, for example, and your partner's pushing all of those buttons, and then which one do you step into first? That's kind of the interesting, I want to almost say, mirror to see which one you're needing to embody more of. Does that make sense? It's like,
Yes.
if you're going straight into, for example, the masculine, and that actually, hold on, you're actually yearning for more of the feminine, maybe from your partner, then it's something within you, because we know that every aspect is a mirror to what we're needing to deal with. It's got nothing to do with the other. It's always got to do with ourselves first, because our internal environment creates our external environment. So it's interesting to see, like, where in the last couple of weeks, the last couple of days, maybe the last couple of months, have you been triggered within relationships where you've been kind of yearning for an aspect that you feel like is missing, and then you're kind of stepping into you're dealing with it, you're responding, you're reacting from a place of what? Either over, like, the shadow of the masculine, or you're actually forgetting about the feminine, or you're going into that overdrive of feminine, but you're actually forgetting about the masculine, and therefore there's this inconsistency in the balance of both that's needed, right?
Yes, it is the literal piece of like that, because again, are you meeting like for like? So if you're having a shadow masculine experience, partnership, and all of a sudden you meet it with that same energy, well, then you're both, and it doesn't matter whether it's, female, male,
Mm-hmm.
female, female, it doesn't matter. The point is the energy of which the lane you're in. And so this is true. This is true of governments, businesses, people. What is the energy that you're in? If you meet it with the same energy, then we're all missing the opportunity. And it's not always easy. We are having a human experience, and we all will kind of initially be triggered, or the opportunity is to step back, hold, hang on. Because then if we can really see, hear the other, we'll know what they're really speaking to. What is the fear, the lack, the concern, the worry? Because that's typically what's driving it. And then what's the opportunity? And like you're speaking to, Jaclyn, it's the beauty of, and what role are they playing for me? By them doing this, what's the opportunity for me? And one other thing they popped in was, really this is speaking to, in the harmony and the balance, right, of this whole topic of balancing the masculine and the feminine, so as to not swing the pendulum, so as to be balanced in harmony. Really, it's about permission. And we often associate permission as an external offering. Someone's given us permission to do something, as opposed to giving yourself permission. Give yourself permission to step back, or to come at something, or to change perspectives. Self-permission. Permission to not react. Permission to not engage. Permission to not take on someone else's experience, energy. That's theirs. Give yourself permission.
And I think that it's so beautiful, because it actually brings up also the idea that how we've been so conditioned to need external validation, or receive the solutions externally, where actually everything is co-created from the internal state. And it's like how we're flipping everything on its head, where we're actually having to unlearn what we've learned from small, you know what I mean, which is constantly looking for that external. And don't you it's super weird, because I have moments where I'm like, okay, so I feel like I want to be loved more. Okay, but am I loving myself enough? And so I'm catching myself asking empowering questions, but then I'm still going through the human experience of going, okay, wait, but it feels so much better when somebody else loves me. So like I want someone else to love me. And then I go, no, what does it actually look like? Like, how can I actually love myself? Or how can, I mean, you know, for me, I love flowers. So I walk past and every time I look at it, and it's so interesting, my mom sent me, I think it was Mel Robbins that created a reel, and she said she loved flowers and she always yearned for someone to buy her flowers until she realized, actually, hold on, she can buy herself flowers. And the joy from actually purchasing your own flowers, but it's the reframe of the mindset, because when you're in that vibrational energy of, oh, I have to buy myself flowers because nobody wants to buy me, it's not the energy that you're actually, you know, that's actually going to give you that inner peace, that fulfillment, that's going to level you up into the frequency where you're going to be attracting all the goodness into your life anyway, right? Because you're co-creating it. So it's kind of checking in with yourself, and this is what we're speaking about, is that in order to cultivate inner peace, it could actually start with, how are you treating yourself? Like when you're seeing within a relationship, maybe you're requiring something from the partner, where can you give it to yourself first? And how's that relationship and how's that experience been for you? Because I know for me, it hasn't been easy. Like it's been quite this I want to say dance again of going, okay, so it does feel good to feel like to love me, but what does that actually look like? You know, maybe I need to run a bath for me, maybe I need to play nice music, maybe I need to make myself some really good dinner that I'm gonna absolutely love, or maybe I need to book myself a massage, or you know, like it's having this idea of taking action, which is the masculine, based on the awareness of what the feminine actually is yearning for to be. And in order to be love, maybe you've actually got to give yourself love. Make sense?
Yes, and you just said something which I want to go back to, which is really an incredibly beautiful practical tool, a literal tool. Asking yourself empowering questions. So that is epic, Jaclyn, because again, when we're willing, that's a healthy ego that is listening, that is intuitive, that is the purity of divine masculine, the purity of divine feminine, because you're willing to ask empowering questions, deep questions of yourself. That is another massive, literal, practical, spiritual tool. Because again, so many people, the issue, the reason that we stop at fear and all these aggressions and the shadow and this kind of dominating patriarchal way, this authoritarian way, and you were speaking to this about, the parental piece and everything, like this external love, approval, and so forth. It's very funny how this fits, because mothers are the caregivers, the nurturers. The fathers by default are when I say authoritative, like the authoritarian, it's like there's an external sense of requiring approval, divine masculine, patriarchal. The caregiver, the divine mother, the caregiver, is the one that nourishes. Now, the irony is that most, at least in my household, very strong women, and the women did the disciplining. It was rare that our fathers would, when I say our fathers, my father, my uncle, my grandfather, these very, very strong masculine and feminine in my family. And yet, so there's this opportunity to ask the questions. And when we lead with this, the point that they're making is, you have to be willing to ask the empowering questions of yourself. And we also then have to realize that patriarchal, authoritative piece that feels external is simply showing us how to ask that or be that for ourselves. How to be a great care provider. Here's this wonderful, nourishing, strong women. They're demonstrating for you ways to be. Not externally needing that from them, but for you to be it yourself. Same with that, but we have this, right? The patriarchal thing is kind of I may be muddling this a little bit. What I'm trying to really say though is the external piece of the patriarchal rule, which is where we've been. It is this outside external aspect. We're leaving that. It's served its purpose. It has taught us, it should have taught us to have a greater sense of self. Ask the empowering questions. We're moving into this, let's call it strong woman. She's got a balanced masculine. It's required. Mothers must have this in order to raise children. I mean, and yet the nourishment, the love, the cuddles, the kisses, the cuddles, what kids, I don't know, all of us go running to your mother's leg or hiding under your mother's skirt or something, or like, it's the beauty and the balance of these two. But now it's an inside job. It always has been, but now it's going to really be an inside job, which is what you were speaking to so poignantly and literally, is ask the empowering questions of yourself.
And as we move through the full moon, that's tomorrow, the 18th, right?
Yes.
Yeah, tomorrow
is the full moon. Yes, in Virgo.
In the full moon in Virgo, yeah. It is really looking and calling to the idea of self-care and self-love, and the idea of how nourishment. You spoke about nourishment as well. It's like, what do you need right now? Like, what do you need right now to feel nourished, to feel fulfilled? Maybe it is that you need a hug, and maybe you don't have the people around you that can truly, really give you that hug, but then give yourself a hug. And I mean, it sounds so ridiculous, but like, have you really actually done that? Like, have you actually like held yourself and sat with yourself and your own energy? And this is what you're talking about, James, is this idea of going internal, and we're so focused on the external and everyone around us, and it comes so naturally, but to actually like go within, like actually give yourself a hug. It is probably one of the most powerful experiences that you can have if you truly give yourself a hug, because you actually get to tune into how receptive you actually are to yourself, what energetic vibration you're giving off at that moment, what are you actually looking for, yearning for, because you're closing off all of the external and you're actually going completely internal, even with your physical. And so everything, all of your focus is on the internal, and then you really actually get to feel that something so silly and yet so simple as giving yourself a hug is probably the first step for you to really figure out, what do you actually need, what are you yearning for, what is coming up for you as we head through this full moon, for you to truly, number one, put into action masculine, and number two, be by releasing and actually stepping into the highest expression of yourself.
Yes, and as we've spoken to Jaclyn, right? Even if it's, imagine literally the parents, the divine masculine, the divine feminine, your soul source connection, giving you that hug, buying those flowers with you, for you. Yes, it might be that we are doing it. Literally, we are the ones doing it. However, when we see it from a broader perspective, a different perspective, our divine parents love us deeply. It's just the way it is. The whole tapestry is set up based on love, goodness, wanting the best for us, true north. It can't be anything else. But we forget, because we've been conditioned by where we've been, our society, our history, this externalness of things. And I would summarize, before we go to some of the comments and everything, I would summarize that ultimately this entire episode about harmonizing, the opportunity to harmonize the masculine and feminine, is really about the inward to the outward ripple. The more that you harmonize, the more that you quickly stop yourself to come into this harmony, to see a new perspective, to address what your fear is, to buy yourself flowers, to take a nap, to do the things that will keep you harmonized and balanced. Bottom line, that's how we change the world inside out, because the ripple is One person, I mean, look, Master Jesus, Gandhi, Hitler, other people, one person has changed
Mother
the world
Teresa.
many times. Let it be the positive change. Let it be the positive ripple. Let it be matriarchal.
That's so beautiful. And as always, we absolutely love your comments. Haley, Natalie, Bridget, Deborah, Laurie's in the house. I and Jennifer Stanley's in the house. We appreciate the fact that you're engaging with us and that you agree with everything that we're saying and you're giving your aspects as well. Yeah, on that note, James, do you wanna kind of bring everything? You already brought everything together so beautifully. Do you kind of want to leave one little nugget before we close?
Oh, goodness. The thing that came to me in the moment is be. What we're really talking about here is be. Be your true, authentic, divine, masculine, feminine, spirit, harmonic self. Be that. And the practical tools to get there, look to the tarot, look to this, as we've spoken about, these literal practical tools, and then see it from the perspective of the Hanged Man. It requires a new perspective. And then it requires the Fool, the hero's journey, which is to go about this new perspective, be willing to embrace it, embody it, be it, so as to emit that energy, that ripple, because that's where we're going. That is the arc of time. That is the arc and the embodiment of the matriarchal divine feminine. She is the great mother. She is the great nurturer. She is the giver of life. Without all of you women, none of us boys or none of us guys and girls would be here. And yet what's also, as you said, Jaclyn, what's also required is that we need the divine masculine. We need it in this, and we are it. So we need it in the sense of healthy egos, healthy minds, healthy perspectives, healthy language, healthy exchanges.
Healthy action.
Healthy action. And when we come to that place, and it's just, they're giving me Gandhi, when we come to that place from a state of peace, that, again, India received its sovereignty not through force, not through aggression, but through peace. They were the ones beaten, but by maintaining their level of purity, their peace, their harmony, they afforded themselves sovereignty. That's epic. So we don't have to default to the shadow. We don't have to default to the easy external blah blah blah. Default to the internal knowing. Jaclyn.
And sometimes that just starts with a hug, where you hug yourself.
Right? Who doesn't love
literally
free hugs, right? The people that stand with the signs, free hugs.
I love that.
And I
watch those videos and my heart is just like, yes, I get it. But sometimes I've also realized, that again, it's external. It's like we want the validation, we want the hug, we want the support, we want the space from someone else, from external. And the whole idea is now going internally and literally it's like that practice where you look at yourself in the mirror and you literally say, okay, like, I love you. So it's kind of going, okay, like, let me hug myself and actually feel into what I'm feeling, what I'm needing, how I can nourish myself, and where is my alignment at versus where I'm wanting to go, which is peace. And that's kind of like the first step. So as we leave today.
And look at Anne's comment. I had a friend who used to say, I love me, and he would kiss himself on the forearm. I understand this better now.
Yeah.
It's powerful. It's empowering. It's nourishing. Don't you just want to go out and hug people? Hug yourself first. Like hug a tree.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? It demonstrates value. It demonstrates value of self, of others, of Mother Nature. This is This is the matriarchal Aquarian. What was the word we used? It's not rule. It's leadership. And when businesses and governments and individuals lead that way, it's so empowering. It's so, Jaclyn, yummy.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So as we leave you guys today, we really do invite you to start hugging yourself first and start looking at the self-care that you need and start checking in with your energy, especially as you move through this full moon, expressing compassion and harmony as things come up, as triggers come up, so that you can work through them because they're coming up because you are strong enough to be able to deal with them right now. So give them gratitude, give those triggers, give the people in your life that are holding space for you, that are giving you the opportunity to learn, to gain the wisdom, give them gratitude. You don't even have to tell them personally. You can actually just energetically communicate with them as well, and allow yourself to go through this process, because this is the journey of getting to where we're wanting to be on a day-to-day basis, because there's no destination. It's always about the journey. So it's been an absolutely incredible time as always, James.
Yes, thank you all so much. Your comments, we'll comment as well. If we didn't address them during the show, we'll get to them in the post show and comments and everything. And just one last thing, Brigitte brought it up, this dream about seeing things being cleansed, washed away. It's another wonderful thing. Get to a body of water, flowing water that's moving, and allow that to cleanse your spirit, cleanse your soul, cleanse your mind, cleanse your body. And that too will be, it will recalibrate and it will nourish in a way, because again, we're born in a sack of water. There's this beautiful embodiment. This is the divine feminine, and that can afford you just a new perspective, a greater renewal. So whether it's the nap, the water, but thank you all so much for joining us on this very epic discussion of the opportunity of balancing the masculine and the feminine so as to thrive in this very interesting moment of transition.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week.